The Road to War. Written and narrated by John Miro. Get more at servingworlds.com. "36. Tyler's own mech carried his body behind the line of doctors, soldiers, and reawakened medical guinea pigs. Willard helped Boyd Thatcher, Padalecki had Carol Steeps, and the doctors, Tubby and Red, each had a shoulder of Ellard Bacco, a head taller and 20 pounds heavier than each of them. The patients were weak, but monitors in the spacesuits they now wore indicated fair health, despite Dr. Mentel's best efforts. Once aboard the elevator in the center of the wheel, Lee shared Janine's biohack with the other Wielder subjects. He didn't know what to expect from Willard's alliance, only what the doctors and the limited records provided to them wanted him to know. He wanted to protect his people. That started with Willard and the three Wielders. He'd work out the rest when he had to. When the elevator opened, Lee walked at the front of the line, his hand around the neck of Mentel's helmet, and not gently. As before, the airlock out of Mentel's shielded module below the wheel opened onto the vacuum that hollowed out the rest of Ryson. Instantly, emergency messages crowded radios and implants informing them help was coming, the fleet was stabilized, and the people desperately wanted to know Dr. Karina Mentel was alive and unharmed. Lee let Willard report in. He wasn't a captain in the eyes of the Alliance, only to his friend. But he listened to the reports and the hoarse and trembling voices who made them. Mentel was zip-tied to an acceleration couch inside Willard's small docking craft. Doctors Scott Kincaid, Tubby, Calvin Bonner, and Red, Tashin Lockman, hovered compassionately over their charges. Willard left Padalecki in charge of the passenger section. Before the airlock to the cockpit closed behind them, Lee saw the private fighting back tears as she remote-piloted Tyler's mech and his coffin against a wall. Willard sat in his pilot's chair and eased his skull back against a silver plate on the headrest. His eyes glazed over, and instantly the tender began to pull away from Ryson. Lee's stomach and eyes needed a moment to accept the conflicting realities. The ship was accelerating madly through space without any sense of thrust or motion. So this was Jean Bargana's legendary gravity drive. Lee's implant had gone silent once they left Ryson. He queried the network, which told him he could not be who his implant said he was. Lehu Zhang had died en route, at the Battle of the Row. Apparently, Mentel and the powers that be were keeping his life a secret. The wall parted under the window to Lee's right, extruding a twin of Willard's chair. That was fine with him. He sagged down onto it. His eyes burned, but the world outside was new and terrifying. He fought the exhaustion and counted 7 spaceships, all oriented in his direction. Willard was flying to the back of the pack. Some he recognized from before the war, some were new constructions. His implant still worked in his head at least, and roughly calculated 25-kilometer buffers between each ship. There was too much drifting wreckage to count. Everything beyond was blackness, no stars. The only light was occasional bolts of red and orange lightning. So this is the fold. It looked even scarier with his real eyes than it did with the VR hallucinations his implant sandbox conjured up. "Thank you, Angel," he sighed. "Had nothing better to do." Willard's usual smart mouth failed him. "I'm sorry, Cap. You deserved a medal the way you went out, the way we thought you went out. Protecting an Earther like that? I was watching, you know. None of us ever forgot the example you set. Carson deserved your protection, but you deserved better." Lee ghosted a smile. "Been a long time since somebody wasn't trying to kill me." Willard sat up, veins in his neck rippling under his skin. "It's all supposed to be different now. We're on the same side. This ain't right, Lee. I'm going to reach out. A lot of us owe you, Lee, and we're going to find out who gave you to that troll and—" At the back of the line of ships loomed a large form, suddenly haloed with color. He recognized it as the Peter Cloak. And then he recognized the weird flares of gas from the drive section for what it was: an explosion in vacuum. "No," Willard said, sounding sure he was right and telling the universe what it was showing him was wrong. "Two Reacher battalions live on Cloak." 2 battalions meant thousands of lives. Lee was heartsick, numb. He wondered how many of the friends that had mourned him were now racing to the grave before him. The door behind them hissed open, and Karina Mantell sauntered in. "I see they started without me." Padalecki grabbed her by the hair and dragged her backward, screaming. Willard and Lee stared, blank, helpless gazes, each hoping for some direction from the other. "They started without her?" Willard sputtered. "What the hell is happening?" Light raged in the cockpit as Cloak's drive section ripped itself apart. The ship wobbled, falling out of alignment with the rest of the fleet. Willard screamed a warning, far too late and far too far away to help anyone, as explosions continued in a domino effect, shattering the spine of the ship. Flares of atmosphere lit the entire fold, then died away, along with the crew of the Peter Cloak. Then the shooting started. You have been listening to Reach, The Road to War. Written and narrated by John Miro. Music, All This by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Hear more of the story at servingworlds.com. Thank you for listening.